Welcome to Curated by Culture. I'm your curator, Cassandra. Somebody recently reminded me that I never decided on an intro because I mentioned it last season. I know, and I'm sorry. Like, I will get it together one day, I promise you. But for now, you're gonna get what I give you, and that's it. So no intro, but I always say welcome to Curated by Culture. I'm your curator, Cassandra, which is a little silly too because you should know who I am by now, but whatever. Um, Anywho, how are you all feeling tonight? How's your head? How's your heart? Don't forget to check in with yourselves. I think it's really important. Um, the last couple of years since COVID, since, quarantining, all have been hard. And it's important that we really take a minute and check in with ourselves on a daily basis. Like, you need to understand your feelings. It's important to feel them too. And if you don't understand what feelings feel like, listen to Feel Your Feelings from last season, because I recently told somebody to listen to it and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. Those are good points." So, if you don't remember, or if you don't, you don't understand how feeling your feelings work, listen to that. Anywho, again, that's my second anywho now, right? Anyway, um, I was thinking about something recently, and it kind of came back up at dinner this evening, and I was like, well, I don't want to forget, so let me just go ahead and record. So here we are. You're getting me this way. I was out and now I'm back, and I didn't change yet because otherwise you'd get me in a nice little hoodie. Um, I was thinking about all the elements that make up a relationship, whether it's, intimate or otherwise. And, obviously love, attention, and all those things are important. I mean, very important. But one of the most important things I personally believe, and that's my personal opinion, is understanding. I really don't feel like people understand each other. It's not that they don't want to, they just don't know how to go about it too. I think we get into situations with people, whether they're friendships or intimate or personal or whatever, and it's like, oh, we're vibing, it's cool, I like this person, and let's just go. Let's see where it takes us. Let's just see where it leads us. And that's great in the beginning, but as time goes on and you start to develop stronger feelings for a person, or, you just feel a certain kind of closeness, I think it's important that you also choose to stop and say, you know what, I also want to understand them. And um understanding requires you to ask questions. I've said this before. One of my friends calls me nosy. She's always like, "You're so nosy." And out to dinner tonight, which is how it came back up towards the end, he said, "What, I feel like I'm being interviewed." And I was like, "I'm not interviewing you. I'm just trying to understand, like, what you're talking about right now, or why you respond the way you do at certain things, or why you are the way you are in certain ways." And I don't think a lot of people do that. I think most of the time when we're talking to people, we listen to respond. Rarely do we listen to understand. And that lack of understanding is what leads to relationships not working. Just think about it. You're like, somebody does something to you don't like, and you're like, okay, I'm done with him or I'm done with her. Versus saying, oh, I understand why she did that, or I understand why I haven't spoken to her. Like, one thing with me, I think, for the people who don't really, really know me, is, sometimes I need time alone. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. Like, I'm being very honest. Like, I take time alone very seriously. And then when I need to be alone, I do it. People who understand me, they get it. My sisters, who, obviously have no choice but to understand me because I'm going to force it down their throats, they understand. Like, if I turn my phone on do not disturb, they understand. If I say, don't, I'm going here, I'm gonna be gone for a month, I'm gonna be gone for 2 months, they understand it. It's just how I am. But I don't think a lot of people take the time to get to understand each other. And that kind of leads to, the world being the way the world is, if you think about it. But when we get into relationships, and, again, I talked about this last season too, on Venus and Mars. which, by the way, is one of my most downloaded episodes to date, I think. Well, last time I checked anyway. Venus and Mars, it was about men and women, obviously. Um, but I think, we have such a lack of understanding for each other, which is why so many relationships fail. I'll always say this, especially to the ladies. I always say, like, sure, you can get a man and give him all the great loving that you want to give him. And I'm using the word loving because my mom watches and I don't want to say any other word because um, but you can give a man all the loving you want, and sure, that's important to men, to some men. But if I'm being really, really honest, and I think I've said this before, most men just want to be understood. Like every man I know, and I tend to have more male friendships than I do have female friendships. I have a lot more male friendships than I have female friendships. Um, but they all say that. Like one of the things they love about me is I listen, I talk, I understand. They find it comfortable to talk to me. I always get told I'm so disarming. That's one of my favorite things that people say, by the way. Especially men always say you're so disarming, and I'm like, oh, thank you. um but it's true. It's like, you know yeah. And especially when we're talking about black men, because again, I'm not monolithic, blah blah blah. But it's hard being a black woman or a black man in this world, not just this country, but in this world, this entire world. It's very hard to be a black woman or a black man. The second we leave our houses, we're being attacked, we're being told this, we're being told what not to do. I remember when I once had a job many, many, many moons ago, before I worked for myself. um I would literally get you know, call down to HR probably like once a month. Oh, you're being too aggressive. You've been let me I'm not being this first of all, I'm being assertive, but I'm not being aggressive. Like I'm not even gonna go down that road. But there's so many other things we have to deal with. The last thing we want to do when the work day is over, when the world day is over and being out in the world is over, is come home to somebody who doesn't understand us. Like, that's just a hard way to live. I want to come home to my person and have my person or my people, if you have kids, family, sister, whatever. But I want to come home to my people who understand me and, let my guard down. Take it easy, be soft, put my feet up, enjoy my day, enjoy the rest of my time with the people that I love. But I want to be understood. And I hate to say this to people, like, we really think we know people until something happens. And then we're like, well, I didn't know them. Well, you didn't understand them. It's not that you didn't know them, because sure, you can know me. You know, my name is Cassandra. You know my age because I talk about it all the time. You know, I have a daughter, but do you understand me? Do you understand why I'm even doing this podcast? Hmm. um, but I think that's something that is so lacking, and it's like one of the most important components of a relationship. Truly, if you stop and you think about it. I was talking to a really, not a really good friend, a good friend of mine recently about her. Why did I stop and say a really good friend, not a good friend of mine? That was so silly. She is a really good friend to me. Okay, I want to say that. I don't know why I changed my words. I just got anyway. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she's in a new relationship, and she has taken time to heal from her past one and her past traumas and all these things that she had gone through. And in this new relationship, she has really said that one thing she said is she really took the time to understand him. This guy she's dealing with, and they're both creatives, and he's a little different. She's like, he's a little different from the other guys I've dated. But what I'm enjoying about getting to understand him is, when he picks up the phone to call me at 3 a.m., I understand why he needs to call me at 3 a.m. Or when he calls and he's a little bit anxious about something, I understand him, because a lot of times, think about it, somebody picks up the phone to call you at 3 a.m., you're like, what is wrong with you? But she understood why. She understands why. And to her now, it's like, it's normal for us now. And he appreciates that. It's one of the things he loves most about me. And in turn, the same with her. He's appreciated that, she opens up enough, because a lot of times when we go through bad relationships, and that was one of her biggest things, is that she had been through so many bad relationships. But a lot of times when we go through bad relationships, we carry that baggage. and we bring it into our new relationships, especially if we don't take the time to heal. But she opened up to him in getting to understand each other, not just getting to know each other, but understand each other. And so now, in a way, he kind of understands why she moves the way she moves and why she is the way she is and why when certain things happen, she responds a certain way. And so, and I kept saying to her, like, that's such amazing growth for you. Like, just in relationships in general, because a lot of people just don't understand each other. Like, it's wild. Like, I understand my sisters. You know what I mean? Like, I've lived with them my whole life, so I understand them. And so when my nieces or nephews call me to complain about their moms, I'm like, well, you have to understand. And in turn, when my sisters, are complaining about their kids, I'm like, well, you have to understand X, Y, and Z. It's not that they don't know their children or love their children or care for their children. I think a lot of times we just choose not to understand people. And I think we really need to take the time to do that. It would serve us all so much better. Not just, in relationships like, intimate, but every day, all of our relationships. Understand your coworkers, understand your friends, understand your boss, understand your nail tech. I understand my nail tech. Now I don't get my nails done, obviously. I'm just a very natural girl, but I do get a pedicure. And my girl Valentina, I understand her. I understand her process. I understand how she moves. I talk to her. I'm in there for 45 minutes to an hour. I talk Valentina's head off, and she's, in turn, she tells me her life story, and I understand it and I get it. I understand why she's there. And I don't know. That's just the way I am, and maybe I'm unique in that, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're nosy, or you're this, you're that, but I'm like, I want to understand you. Getting to know each other is great. Like, I can tell you how many sisters I have, where I was born, where I was raised, and all these things, but if you don't understand me, we'll never be able to connect. And at the end of the day, connection is everything. If you don't know what I've said about connection, go back to any episode in season 1. I talk about connection so much, people were like, okay, we get it. Connections are what keep us going, especially if you think about the last 2 years, um, with COVID and all these other things. So many people who were alone or didn't have these strong connections didn't make it. And again, that makes me feel sad, because it's like these things can be avoided. Now, I know somebody's going to be like, "Oh, if I thought you said lonely, but not alone." Right? We always have Jesus. Like, Jesus is on this every episode with me. He's on his couch with me every day, right? But I think, truthfully, we need strong connections. If you don't have a therapist, get one. But if you don't have a therapist, you need friends. You need connections. You need people to share your stories with, to share your life with, to share your thoughts with, your dreams, your passions, and your fears. I think how amazing for me to have 3 built-in best friends in my sisters, who I've been able to share my insecurities with, and my sadness with, and my all these things growing up in life. And now that I'm here, I'm able to share my joy with them. Like, those are my strongest connections. So I think we really, 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 and I know I've said this now probably like 4 times already, but I think we need to get to understand each other better. And that will lead to more safe people for us. And what's more important than safe people? What's more important than safe spaces? How wonderful to be able to go home and have a safe person and be in a safe space to really just let it all go and let it down and just be yourself. Talk about the day, talk about the things you've gone through, or how wonderful it is to get on the phone with somebody you don't talk to every day. I'm somebody, sidebar, that does not feel the need to talk to all my friends every single day, but I do want to know on a weekly basis, like, how are you doing? I check in. I think that's important. Text me if you need me. I always tell people that. Text me if you need me. Call me if you need me. I'm always available to people, but I might not be the one who reaches out, because I'm always ripping and running. But I don't know. I just, I think so much about the importance of connections, and why I am the way I am is because of that. Like, connections are everything. We need them to survive. We need them to thrive. We need people to celebrate our wins with. I recently saw a girl on Instagram who I know who kind of went off on a bunch of people because they didn't wish her a happy birthday. And I thought to myself, wow, that's so sad. And then I thought, these aren't your connections. These aren't your people. You have to be really, really, really nitpicky about who you choose to have in your circle. I've talked about the small circle I talk about it all the time, but it's one of the things, like, find your people, be very, very, very discerning about who your people are. The music got really loud suddenly. I'm sorry. For me, I don't know if you guys can hear, but I was like, why did the music go up so loud just now? But find your people and get to understand them, get to know them, get to a place of feeling safe around each other, safe enough to share anything. I think in friendships, and I always say this, it's like the gossipy people are not for me. I'm not super mixy. I always tell people, like, I'm not mixy. I don't go out. I don't do these things. I'm not like 5 years ago. Yeah, I might have been out, going here, going there, trying to be at every scene, but as I've gotten to this place where I've, really gotten to know myself, and I've really, really um took the time to do any work on myself that needed to be done, I really realized that for me, I'm an introvert, but only with other people. With my people, I'm a super extrovert. Like, in spaces where I feel safe, and in spaces where I feel really comfortable, in spaces where I have connections and understanding, I am the life of the party. I walk in and I'm like, hey y'all, like, I command attention in a way. Somebody told me that recently. You just walk into a space to command attention. No, I walk into spaces as myself. And I walk into all spaces as myself, let's be clear, but I walk into safe spaces as myself, and I love everyone. I love all my people, and they love me. I feel like, anytime I'm around these people, I'm happy. It's my happiest moment, which is why, again, to reiterate, it's important that, you know, we be mindful of the energy that we keep around us. Like, you always be mindful of those things, because it's very important. Anyway, that was my thought. That's where I was going with all of this. Um, just, understanding. And then the other part of relationships that I think is really important is truth. Um, Truth and trust. Trust, obviously, like, if you can't trust somebody, you can't be in a relationship with them. But also the truth part. A lot of times people say things like, you can't handle the truth. Let me not say people, men. Sorry guys, but you do really say this. You love to say this, and I think I've talked about this before. Um, Again, sidebar. Once I record these episodes, I record them, I label them, and I move on. I never watch. I don't watch myself. I don't know what I look like. My sister did call me recently and tell me my eyes are always shifting, but I'm like, things are happening. Like, it's not that they're shifting. And also the other part is I'm staring at the camera, and that's weird because it's not like I'm talking to anybody. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, truth. Men love to say, like, you can't handle the truth. That's not true, guys. I hate to break the news to you, but you'd be shocked to hear or to understand that most women can handle the truth. We can. If you're honest with me, then I know how to deal with it. I know how to deal with you, and then I can decide if I want to move forward. But when you lie, and then you tell another lie because you're trying to save that lie, and then you tell another lie, now we're in this web of lies and deceit, and it never goes well. And I mean, obviously, I'm not just gonna say men, I mean women too, right? But I think when I'm talking about, like, the most important parts of and components of relationships, and understanding, truth is like one of the second most important ones, right? Like, if you don't have trust and truth and honesty with someone, what do you have? That's all superficial then, right? It's just like, oh, we're just vibing, it's cool, blah blah blah, but we don't have any trust, we don't have any truth. Like, these are all parts of loving somebody. Being truthful, being honest, these are the most important parts of loving somebody, if you ask me. And if we don't have that, we have nothing. So I don't know. I think when I think about relationships and I think about the lack of understanding, I think the truth part comes in because a lot of people aren't honest. I want to understand you, but I need you to be honest with me. You understand what I'm saying? I want to understand you, but I need you to tell me the truth. I want to understand you, but I need you to trust that whatever you say to me is not for me to use against you. It's not for me to harm you. It's not for me to do anything malicious. It's only for me to understand you. And the better understanding we get with people, the more we're able to really love them. And I mean that, like, if I understand you and you're truthful with me, there's nothing you can do that will make me not love you. I will always continue to love you as long as you are honest with me, as long as I understand you, as long as you're truthful with me. I will always love you. But when you lie to me, I'm like, hey, I'm good. I'm solid. Good luck. But yeah, I think that's those are some of the most important parts of relationships. And I just said I just thought of something I wanted to say, and then it's late, y'all. I'm sorry. But yeah, those are the most important parts, though. I think I want to see people build stronger relationships, which is why I wanted to have this conversation. I mean, I'm not even talking about post healing. I'm just talking about in general. Like, you can still be in the middle of healing. You could be healing. You could not even realize you need to heal. But listen to this. This is for everybody. This is not just for the healing people, but this is for everybody. I think if we really want to build strong relationships, these are the things we need to do. We just need to be. We need to get comfortable. We need to get comfortable in wanting and choosing to understand each other. That'll build stronger relationships for sure. What was the thing I wanted to say? Oh my goodness. I just thought about it. It's really going to bother me now for the rest of the night. I'm going to be like, you know what? I wanted to say, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, um, I don't have a random thought. I don't have an unpopular opinion. I don't have a hot topic. I was out. Life is good. Life is great for me right now. I'm super duper busy. Um, I am, and if you're listening and you know somebody, I am looking for a new assistant to help me with some things with this podcast. I did get uh I had a really great phone call. This is unrelated to the topic, to the podcast. Like, I'm done with everything I had to say. I had a really great conversation. I want you guys to pray for me. Like, please, seriously. I had a really great conversation with somebody about taking this podcast to a very specific platform. And if it works out, more people will hear me and more people will get to heal. But one of the things I think I want to say is I really appreciate everyone's support. Um, they wouldn't have heard about me if not for all the support, all the shares, all the, I don't want to say likes because I don't post on Instagram. You guys help me find somebody to handle Instagram and I will do it. Like, I'll be all over Instagram for you. It's not my thing. It really, really, truly is not my thing. But if you help me find somebody, I will do it. I promise. But I appreciate all the support. You guys are really sharing this podcast. YouTube is still a work in progress because it's not my thing either. But as far as like Apple Music and Spotify and all that other stuff, it gets a lot of shares and I appreciate that. I really do. I think that's it for me. Follow me on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, seriously, follow me on Instagram. It's like CXC underscore the podcast. Um, And am I on Twitter? Am I on Twitter? No, I'm not on Twitter. No, I might be on Twitter. I think I am on Twitter. I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for listening, for sharing and all these other things. And bye. Love you, Ma.